A bright streak of light tore across the night sky, blazing a fiery trail over the quiet countryside. What appeared to be a meteorite soon erupted in a deafening explosion, shaking the earth below. In the small town of Haven Creek, nestled beneath the rolling hills, the people rushed from their homes to witness the otherworldly sight. What they didn't know was that this wasn't an ordinary celestial event. It was the arrival of something far more ominous. The Galactic Council had made its decision. Earth was to be investigated, judged, and if necessary, controlled. To the Council, humans were an unpredictable anomaly, a species teetering between primitive violence and rapid technological advancement. They had chosen Earth as the stage for a grim experiment, and it began with the most delicate of provocations, a direct confrontation with its most vulnerable. Kalen Reeves, a retired military strategist turned historian, stood on the edge of the impact site, his breath visible in the cool air. The smoldering crater before him revealed not rock, but sleek metallic wreckage glowing with an unearthly hue. Whatever had fallen wasn't from Earth, and Kalen's gut churned with dread. Beside him, his young niece Lyra tugged at his sleeve, her wide eyes reflecting the eerie light. "Uncle Kalen, is it an alien spaceship?" she asked, her voice a mixture of awe and fear. Kalen couldn't answer. His mind raced, calculating possibilities, each one worse than the last. He crouched down, placing a steadying hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Stay close to me," he said, his tone firmer than usual. The peaceful life he had chosen after years of war seemed to crumble with each passing moment. As news of the crash spread, government officials quickly cordoned off the area, their helicopters and vehicles filling the once silent fields. Kalen watched with unease as armed personnel secured the site. Lyra clung to him, her innocence stark against the chaos unfolding. She was his anchor, a reminder of why he had left behind a life of conflict. But as the night wore on, Kalen couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something far worse than any war he had fought. Far above Earth, aboard the Council's flagship, Overseer Ryan observed the planet with cold detachment. The Galactic Council viewed Earth as a rogue world, unaligned with the cosmic order they enforced. Humanity's history of violence and disregard for universal law made them a potential threat. Ryan had argued for a test, one designed to provoke humanity into revealing its true nature. The directive was simple: create a scenario that would challenge Earth's will to resist. The Council chose a single target, a small human child, Lyra. If humanity showed weakness, submission, or apathy in the face of tragedy, the Council would declare Earth unworthy of sovereignty. If humans retaliated, they would face annihilation. The decision was calculated, logical, and utterly cruel. Kalen had no idea how close the storm was to his doorstep until the following evening. Lyra, curious and restless, had slipped away unnoticed to explore the edge of the crash site. She was drawn to the strange light, unaware of the danger lurking nearby. Kalen's heart froze when he realized she was gone. He sprinted toward the site, his military instincts kicking in. But by the time he reached the boundary, it was too late. A shadowy figure, alien and unmistakably other, stood over Lyra, its elongated limbs pulsing with a dull, ominous glow. "No!" Kalen roared, charging forward. Before he could reach her, the alien raised an appendage, and a blinding light enveloped the area. Kalen was thrown back, his body slamming into the ground as the sound of Lyra's scream tore through the night. When the light faded, she was gone. Kalen lay in the dirt, his mind reeling. The military personnel rushed to the scene, but their attempts to contain the situation were futile. The aliens had vanished, leaving only the echoes of their violence. In the days that followed, grief and rage consumed Kalen. Lyra had been his world, and now she was gone, taken by beings who viewed humanity as nothing more than a test subject. The loss ignited something deep within him, something he thought he had buried long ago. He wasn't alone in his fury. News of Lyra's disappearance spread quickly, sparking outrage across the globe. For the first time in decades, humanity was united, not by a shared goal but by a shared enemy. The Galactic Council's provocation had awakened something primal in the human spirit, something they couldn't have anticipated. Kalen, once a solitary figure in his quiet corner of the world, found himself at the center of a growing movement. His experience as a strategist made him a natural leader, and his personal loss gave him a cause. But Earth's governments were fractured, their responses slow and disorganized. Kalen knew they couldn't rely on bureaucrats and politicians to protect them. Humanity needed something more, a force capable of standing against the overwhelming power of the Galactic Council. And then he remembered the stories, the whispers of ancient fleets buried deep beneath the earth. Legends spoke of ships built long ago, during humanity's earliest ventures into the stars. They were said to be hidden away, forgotten by time but not by those who had the foresight to prepare for humanity's darkest hour. Kalen didn't know if the stories were true, but he had nothing left to lose. Fueled by grief and a burning desire for justice, he began to search for the truth. He reached out to old allies, people who had once fought beside him, and together they uncovered fragments of history that had been buried for centuries. The fleet, if it existed, was humanity's only chance. Kalen wasn't just fighting for Lyra anymore. He was fighting for a future where no one would ever again have to endure the pain he felt. As Kalen and his team pieced together the clues, they realized that awakening the ancient fleet wouldn't be easy. The Council's reach extended far beyond Earth, and every step they took brought them closer to a confrontation they weren't sure they could win. But Kalen refused to back down. He had lost Lyra, but he hadn't lost his resolve. The Galactic Council had made a fatal mistake. They had underestimated humanity's capacity for resilience, for ingenuity, and for defiance. And Kalen intended to make them pay for it.
The hunt for humanity's ancient fleet began in earnest. Kalen, now at the center of a rapidly growing resistance, felt the weight of the world pressing on him. Every step forward was a gamble, every decision a test of his ability to lead in the face of unimaginable odds. What had started as a deeply personal mission to avenge Lyra's abduction had transformed into a fight for Earth's survival. The Galactic Council had struck at humanity's heart, and in doing so, they had united a fractured world against them. The resistance scoured historical records, combed through old legends, and searched for hidden clues in long-abandoned bunkers. Each fragment of information brought them closer to the truth. Humanity's ancient fleet was real, and it was buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. The fleet wasn't just a remnant of the past. It was a monument to the ingenuity and defiance of their ancestors. Kalen's team expanded rapidly. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, and even hackers joined the cause. Among them was Dr. Alara Fenn, a brilliant astrophysicist who had spent her career studying Earth's forgotten past. Alara's knowledge was invaluable, and her ability to decode cryptic texts and maps gave the resistance a fighting chance. "It's not just a myth," Alara said one night as they pored over an ancient manuscript in the dim light of their underground hideout. The fleet was designed to be humanity's ultimate defense. It's hidden in what they called the Crucible Vaults, massive underground facilities scattered across the planet. Kalen leaned over the table, studying the maps and diagrams. "And you're sure the Council doesn't know about this?" Alara hesitated.
"Not yet.
"But if we can find it, so can they. We have to move fast." Time was their greatest enemy. The Council, having observed humanity's growing defiance, had begun deploying more reconnaissance vessels to Earth's orbit. These ships, sleek and menacing, hovered like vultures waiting for the kill. Every move the resistance made was under scrutiny, every transmission a potential risk. Despite the constant threat, progress was made. Kalen's team identified 3 potential locations for the Crucible Vaults: a desert in Africa, a glacier in Antarctica, and a volcanic island in the Pacific. Splitting into smaller teams, they set out to investigate each site, knowing that failure was not an option. Kalen led the team to the Pacific, where the volcanic island was shrouded in thick jungle and treacherous terrain. The journey was grueling, but his determination never wavered. The island's volcanic activity had hidden the entrance to the vault for centuries, but Kalen believed they were close. The team worked tirelessly, using ground-penetrating radar and seismic equipment to map the subterranean structure. Days turned into weeks, and morale began to falter. The constant threat of council drones patrolling the skies weighed heavily on everyone. One night, as the team rested by a campfire, Kalen addressed them, his voice firm but compassionate. "I know you're tired," he said, his eyes sweeping over the weary faces around him. "But we're on the brink of something monumental. Every struggle, every sacrifice, it's all leading to this moment. The council thinks they can break us, but they don't understand what it means to be human. We fight because we refuse to let anyone take our future from us." His words reignited their resolve. The next morning, they made the breakthrough they had been waiting for. Beneath layers of volcanic rock, they uncovered a massive steel door, adorned with ancient symbols that pulsed faintly with blue light. "It's the entrance," Alara whispered, her voice tinged with awe. The team worked quickly to open the door, using a combination of brute force and technical expertise. When it finally slid open, the air inside was cold and sterile, untouched for centuries. They stepped into a cavernous chamber filled with towering machines and sleek starships, their designs far more advanced than anything modern Earth had ever conceived. Kalen's breath caught in his throat. The ancient fleet was real, and it was magnificent. As the team explored the vault, they discovered the fleet was dormant, its systems locked behind layers of security protocols. Activating the ships would require a deep understanding of the ancient technology, and even then it would take time. Time they didn't have. Alara studied the control systems, her fingers flying over the holographic interfaces. "These systems are incredible," she muttered. "But they're also complex. We'll need to decrypt the primary command codes to bring everything online." Kalen's comm device crackled to life, and a voice came through, urgent and strained. "Kalen, we've got a problem. The council ships are moving into lower orbit. They're scanning for activity. If they find the vault—" "They won't," Kalen interrupted, though his heart pounded with fear. "Keep them distracted. We'll be ready." The resistance worked around the clock to decrypt the command codes. Tensions ran high as the council's presence grew more aggressive. Kalen knew they were running out of time. One night, as the team worked in the dimly lit vault, a deafening roar shook the ground. The council had found them. A massive ship descended from the clouds, its sleek form casting a shadow over the island. Kalen and his team scrambled to defend the vault, but their weapons were no match for the alien technology. Explosions rocked the chamber as the council's forces breached the entrance. Kalen's mind raced. They couldn't let the fleet fall into the council's hands. It would mean humanity's end. "Alara," he shouted. "How close are we?" "Almost there," she yelled back, her hands flying over the controls. "I just need a few more minutes." Kalen took up a position near the entrance, firing at the advancing council troops. The air was thick with smoke and the sound of energy weapons. Despite their dire situation, Kalen refused to give up. Suddenly, the vault came to life. Lights flickered on, and a deep hum resonated through the chamber. Alara had done it. The fleet systems were online. One by one, the ships powered up, their sleek forms glowing with energy. Kalen and the remaining resistance fighters retreated into the chamber as the fleet's automated defenses engaged. Turrets emerged from the walls, firing at the invading forces with deadly precision. The tide began to turn. The council's troops were forced to retreat as the ancient fleet came alive, its weapons devastating the alien forces. Kalen stood at the center of it all, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and triumph. "We're not done yet," he muttered, his gaze fixed on the massive ship hovering above the island. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, Kalen felt the faintest glimmer of hope. Humanity's ancient fleet had awakened, and with it, the chance to fight back. The skies over the volcanic island turned into a battlefield, with flashes of light and roars of alien engines echoing across the land. The Galactic Council's massive dreadnought loomed ominously above, its sleek black hull pulsing with unearthly energy. Smaller attack ships swarmed like predatory wasps, their weapon systems lighting up the dark clouds. Kalen and his team stood within the ancient vault, surrounded by the awakened fleet, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and determination. The fleet's activation had shifted the balance, but the battle was far from won. Ships emerged from their cradles, their sleek and angular designs a testament to a forgotten era of human ingenuity. Their hulls shimmered with energy shields, and as they powered up, a deafening hum reverberated through the chamber. Kalen turned to Alara, who was frantically working at the fleet's control console. "What's the status? Can we launch?" Alara wiped the sweat from her brow. "The fleet systems are functional, but we're missing key personnel. These ships need pilots, and there's no time to train anyone." Kalen frowned. They had unlocked the fleet's potential, but now faced the challenge of wielding it. "Then we improvise," he said. "What about automated systems? Can the ships fly themselves?" Alara's eyes widened. "It's possible. The AI cores on board are advanced, but we'll need to activate them manually for each ship." Without hesitation, Kalen grabbed a rifle. "I'll handle the ground defenses. You focus on getting those ships online. Every second counts." As Kalen sprinted toward the vault's entrance, the Council's ground forces launched their second wave of attacks. Their soldiers, clad in biomechanical armor, moved with deadly precision, their energy weapons ripping through the air. The resistance fighters, armed with scavenged weapons, held their ground, buying precious time for Alara and the others inside. The first of the ancient fleet's ships roared to life, its engines emitting a deep, resonant hum that shook the cavern. The ship rose gracefully, its weapon systems lighting up as it targeted the incoming alien fighters. Kalen caught sight of the first plasma barrage as it streaked through the air, obliterating one of the Council's attack ships in a dazzling explosion. But the Council's forces adapted quickly. Their dreadnought unleashed a series of gravitational pulses, disabling the shields of the newly activated human ships. Kalen gritted his teeth as another explosion rocked the ground, sending debris flying in every direction. "Alara," he barked into his comm device. "We're losing ships faster than we can launch them. What's the plan?" Alara's voice crackled back, tinged with urgency. "The AI systems are resisting full control. I'm working on overriding them, but it's taking time. If we can get one command ship fully operational, it can coordinate the fleet automatically." Kalen ducked behind a boulder as an energy blast seared past him. "Then we make time," he growled, raising his rifle to fire at an advancing alien squad. His shots were precise, taking down 2 enemies in rapid succession. The battle raged on, and the vault became a crucible of fire and fury. The Council's forces pressed harder, their dreadnought looming ever closer. Inside the vault, Alara and her team finally made a breakthrough. A massive, command-class warship in the center of the fleet powered up, its lights glowing with a cold, blue intensity. Alara's voice echoed through the comms. "The command ship is online. It's syncing with the fleet now." Kalen risked a glance toward the sky. The newly activated fleet began to move in unison, their weapon systems coordinating to form a devastating counterattack. Plasma cannons fired in rhythmic bursts, cutting through the Council's smaller ships like a knife through paper. The dreadnought responded with a fury of its own. Its main weapon, a planet cracker cannon designed to annihilate entire civilizations, began to charge. The atmosphere vibrated with the buildup of energy, and Kalen's heart sank. "Alara," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the din of battle. "That cannon's going to fire any second. We need a counterstrike." "I know," Alara shot back. "But we don't have the firepower to take it down. At least not yet." Kalen's mind raced. He needed a plan, something bold and reckless. His eyes landed on one of the smaller, sleek ships nearby. A memory stirred, a maneuver he had once executed during his military career. It was dangerous, borderline suicidal, but it just might work. "Alara," he said, his tone grim. "I'm taking a fighter." "What?" she exclaimed. "You'll never survive out there." "Maybe not," Kalen replied. "But if I can get close enough to the dreadnought, I can disable that cannon." You keep the fleet coordinated and get the rest of these ships in the air. Without waiting for her response, Kalen sprinted toward the fighter. He climbed inside, the cockpit enveloping him in a tight embrace. The controls were unfamiliar but intuitive, and as the ship's AI booted up, it recognized him as a pilot. The fighter roared to life, its engines propelling it out of the vault and into the chaotic sky. Kalen weaved through the battlefield, dodging enemy fire and returning calculated shots that took down several alien ships. The dreadnought loomed ahead, its cannon glowing with deadly energy. Kalen pushed the fighter to its limits, evading enemy interceptors as he closed the distance. Alarms blared in the cockpit, warning of imminent danger, but Kalen ignored them. He locked onto the dreadnought's cannon, targeting its energy core. As he prepared to fire, a swarm of alien fighters descended on him. Kalen's hands flew over the controls, his reflexes honed by years of combat. He took out 2 ships with a single shot, but the rest closed in fast. Inside the vault, Alara's voice came through the comms. Kalen, we're fully operational. The fleet's focusing fire on the dreadnought, but you need to hold them off for a few more seconds. I don't have seconds, Kalen grunted, his fighter shaking under the strain of incoming fire. The dreadnought's cannon fired, a massive beam of energy hurtling toward the island. Kalen made a split-second decision. He redirected all power to his shields and charged straight into the cannon's path. The energy beam struck his fighter, engulfing it in blinding light. For a moment, it seemed as though Kalen was lost. But then, the beam faltered, its trajectory veering off course. The dreadnought's weapons sputtered and died, the result of Kalen's desperate maneuver. In the vault below, Alara and the Resistance fighters cheered as the command ship led the fleet in a devastating counteroffensive. The dreadnought, its primary weapon disabled, was now vulnerable. The tide of battle had turned, but at a terrible cost. Kalen's fighter plummeted toward the ground, smoke trailing behind it. Alara's voice crackled over the comms, filled with panic. Kalen, come in. Kalen. As the Resistance fighters looked to the sky, the battle raged on, their victory hanging by a thread. The Galactic Council's dreadnought groaned under the relentless barrage from humanity's ancient fleet. Plasma beams and railgun projectiles rained down, carving through the alien vessel's once impenetrable hull. Yet the battle was far from over. The Council's reinforcements loomed on the horizon, their ships warping into Earth's orbit in staggering numbers. Victory had to be swift, or humanity's last stand would be crushed under sheer force. Inside the command ship of the fleet, Alara took the captain's chair, her hands trembling as she issued commands. The ship's AI had synchronized with the fleet, but Alara knew that even with the fleet's firepower, they were operating on borrowed time. Alara, a technician called out. We've just lost contact with Kalen's fighter. He's not responding. Her heart clenched. Kalen's reckless maneuver had turned the tide, but at what cost? Gritting her teeth, she forced herself to focus. We'll mourn later, she said, her voice firm despite the ache in her chest. Right now, we finish what he started. Bring all weapons to bear on that dreadnought. We need it out of the fight before their reinforcements arrive. The fleet surged forward, their formations precise and lethal. Automated turrets from the command ship targeted the Council's smaller ships with unerring accuracy, blasting them apart in spectacular explosions. Meanwhile, the larger warships concentrated fire on the dreadnought, aiming for its exposed core. On the battlefield below, the Resistance fighters cheered as they witnessed the ancient fleet overwhelming the invaders. But the victory was fragile, and everyone knew it. The Council's reinforcements were already entering the atmosphere, their sleek ships glowing ominously against the stormy sky. Suddenly, a transmission crackled through the comms, the voice faint but unmistakable. Alara, I'm still here. Kalen. Alara's voice broke, equal parts relief and disbelief. I'm not out yet, Kalen said, though his voice was weak. Crashed the fighter, but I'm alive barely. The dreadnought's cannon is offline, but their reinforcements are coming in fast. Alara's grip tightened on the armrest of her chair. Hang tight. We'll take it from here. The dreadnought's engines flared as it attempted to retreat, but humanity's fleet gave no quarter. A massive salvo of plasma rounds struck its core, triggering a chain reaction. The ship erupted in a blinding explosion, pieces of its hull scattering like meteors across the sky. The Resistance fighters erupted into cheers, but their celebration was short-lived. The Council's reinforcements were now fully deployed, dozens of new warships closing in on the fleet. The skies above Earth were a kaleidoscope of fire and destruction, a battle unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Alara, Kalen's voice came through again, quieter this time. You've got to take command of the fleet. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about the future of humanity. Whatever happens, don't stop fighting. Alara swallowed hard, her throat tight. We're not leaving you behind. You might not have a choice, Kalen replied. As the reinforcements descended, the command ship's AI interrupted. Warning, enemy fleet strength exceeds current operational capacity. Recommended action. Initiate fleet-wide countermeasure Omega Protocol. Alara frowned. What's Omega Protocol? The AI's voice remained calm, almost serene. A final activation sequence to maximize fleet efficiency. All ships will synchronize firepower and self-destruct if necessary to ensure maximum enemy losses. Alara's blood ran cold. The Omega Protocol would turn the fleet into a weapon of last resort, sacrificing everything to destroy the Council's forces. Is there any way to win without it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Probability of success without Omega Protocol. 12%, the AI responded. Alara closed her eyes, the weight of the decision crushing her. She had to choose between the fleet's survival and ensuring the Council paid the ultimate price. Before she could respond, Kalen's voice came through again, faint but resolute. Do it, Alara. Humanity will rebuild. But we can't let them win today. Tears filled her eyes, but she nodded. Activate Omega Protocol. The AI acknowledged the command, and across the fleet, a synchronized hum filled the air as every ship aligned for a final, devastating assault. Energy built up in their cores, ready to unleash a cataclysmic wave of destruction. The Council's reinforcements charged forward, unaware of the impending strike. Humanity's fleet fired as one, a blinding wall of energy that tore through the enemy ranks. Ship after ship exploded in fiery bursts, the Council's forces crumbling under the sheer magnitude of the assault. On the ground, Kalen watched the sky light up with a grim smile. He knew this was the end for many of the fleet's ships, but it was also a moment of triumph. Humanity had stood against the Galactic Council and refused to bow. As the final enemy ship disintegrated, the fleet's self-destruct sequence initiated. One by one, the ancient warships detonated, their sacrifices ensuring Earth's survival. The sky went silent, the battle finally over. In the command ship, Alara slumped in her chair, exhausted but victorious. The fleet was gone, but Earth still stood. The Resistance fighters on the ground began to cheer, their cries of triumph echoing across the island. Kalen's voice crackled through one last time. You did it, Alara. We all did. Tears streamed down her face as she replied, You were the one who made it possible, Kalen. You showed them what humanity is capable of. Days later, the Resistance unearthed Kalen from the wreckage of his fighter, battered but alive. News of the battle spread across the galaxy, and for the first time, the Galactic Council knew fear. Earth had not only survived, it had shown the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. The Council's humiliation sent shockwaves through their empire, emboldening other oppressed civilizations to rise up. Kalen, Alara, and the Resistance became symbols of defiance, their story a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity. Though the ancient fleet was lost, its sacrifice had paved the way for a new future, one where Earth would never again be underestimated. Humanity had made its mark on the stars, and as the Council licked its wounds, one message echoed across the galaxy. Never provoke Earth. For when humanity rose to fight, it brought with it the fire of ages.